everybody, it's me, Stephanie, and since it's October, we're going to kick off this month with a little bit of spooky stuff. So I know it's really dark, but that's the theme. So, what I got? Hold on. There's a little bit of light. There we go. Now that you all can see me, I'm going to read some scary stories. And I just want to show you my cool candle. Apparently this is called a bleeding candle. So it will eventually drip over time. So I just want to get picture perfect. Okay. So again, with our scary stories, we got selection out of these lovely books. Alright, so, and this might be the last time I read out of these, so we can do some other Halloween stuff this month. So let's start off with I don't know about that one. We already did a haunted house. There we go. How about the ghost with the bloody fingers? Spooky. Alright. Are we all comfortable? We all in the Halloween scary mood? Good. Let's get to reading. A businessman arrived at a hotel late one night and asked for a room. The room clerk told him the hotel was all filled up. "There is only one empty room," he said, "but we don't rent that one because it is haunted." "I'll take it," said the businessman. "I don't believe in ghosts." The man went up to the room, he unpacked his things, and he went to bed. As soon as he did, a ghost came out of the closet. His fingers were bleeding, and was moaning, "Bloody fingers, bloody fingers." When the man saw the ghost, he grabbed his things and ran. The next night, a woman arrived very late. Again, all the rooms were taken except that haunted room. "I'll sleep there," she said. "I'm not afraid of ghosts." As soon as she got into bed, the ghost came out of the closet. His fingers were still bleeding. He was still moaning, "Bloody fingers, bloody fingers." And the woman took one look and ran. A week later, another guest arrived very late. Can you guess what he did? He also took the haunted room. After he unpacked, he got out his guitar and he began to play. Soon the ghost appeared. As before, his fingers were bleeding and it was moaning, "Bloody fingers, bloody fingers." The man paid no attention. He just kept strumming his guitar, but the ghost kept moaning and his fingers kept bleeding. Finally, the guitar player looked up. "Cool it, man," he said. "Get yourself a Band-Aid." Was that scary? Or was it more comical? I think it was funny. Okay, what should we do? We can do this one. It's called A Weird Blue Light. And it shows a ship. Late one night in October 1864, a Confederate blockade runner slipped by some Union gunboats at the entrance to Galveston Bay in Texas and made it safely to port with its cargo, food, and other necessities. Louis Billings, the master of the small vessel, was getting ready to weigh anchor when he was startled by a shriek from one of the crew. A strange old-fashioned schooner with a big black flag was rushing down at us, Billings said later. She was afire with a sort of weird pale blue light that lighted up every nook and cranny of her. The crew was pulling at the ropes and doing other work, and they paid us no attention, didn't even glance our way. They all had ghastly bleeding wounds, but their faces and eyes were those of dead men. The man who had shrieked had fallen to his knees, his teeth chattering and his gasps out of prayer. Overcome by own terror that was chilling the very marrow of my bones, I rushed forward, shouting to the others as I ran. Suddenly the schooner vanished before my eyes. Some say that it was the ghost of Jean Lafitte's pirate ship Pride that sank off Galveston Island in 1821 or 1822. She was seen again in 1892 in the same waters with the same crew. And it was okay. Seeing pirate ships that come once in a blue moon. Ooh, here's one. The Bride. Okay. Alright. The minister's daughter had just gotten married. After the wedding ceremony, there was a great feast, and music, and dancing, and contests and games. Even children's games. When they got to playing hide and seek, the bride decided to hide in her grandfather's trunk up in the attic. That was your best spot, was the attic? In a trunk? They'll never find me there, she thought. As she was climbing into the trunk, the lid came down and cracked her on the head, and she fell unconscious inside. The lid slammed shut and locked. No one will ever know how long she called for help or how hard she struggled to free herself from that tomb. Everyone in the village searched for her, and they looked almost everywhere. But no one thought of looking in the trunk. After a week, her brand new bridegroom and all the others gave her up for lost. Years later, a maid went up into the attic looking for something she needed. Maybe it's in the trunk, she thought. She opened it up and screamed. There lay the missing bride in her wedding dress, but by then she was only a skeleton. It's kind of sad on your wedding day, and God, nobody ever thought about looking in the attic in an old grandfather trunk. Guess that was too good of a spot, huh? Alright, let's look for one more. I don't want to read that one. Oh, there's good ones, but I'm looking. Did I already do this one? Sorry, I have a list of which ones I already did. How about this one? It's called Maybe You'll Remember. Mrs. Gibbs and her 16-year-old daughter Rosemary arrived in Paris on a hot morning in July. They had been on a vacation and now were We're gonna start this over. Okay, maybe you'll remember. Mrs. Gibbs and her 16-year-old daughter Rosemary arrived in Paris on a hot morning in July. They had been on a vacation and now were returning home. But Mrs. Gibbs did not feel well, so they decided to rest in Paris for a few days before going on. The city was crowded with tourists. Still, they found a place to stay at a good hotel. They had a lovely room overlooking a park. It had yellow walls, a blue carpet, and white furniture. God, that sounds awful. As soon as they unpacked, Mrs. Gibbs went to bed. She looked so pale that Rosemary asked to have the hotel's doctor examine her. Rosemary did not speak French, but fortunately the doctor spoke English. He took one look at Mrs. Gibbs and said, "Your mother is too sick to travel. Tomorrow I will move her to a hospital, but she needs a certain medicine. You go to my home for it. It will save time." The doctor said he did not have a telephone right now. Instead, he would give Rosemary a note for his wife. The hotel manager put Rosemary in a taxi and in French told a driver how to find a doctor's house. "It will take only a little while," he told her, "and a taxi will bring you back." But as the driver slowly drove up one street and down another, it seemed to take forever. At one point, Rosemary was sure they had gone down the same street twice. It took almost as long for the doctor's wife to answer the door, then get the medicine ready. As Rosemary sat on a bench in the empty waiting room, she kept thinking, "Why can't you hurry? Please hurry." Then she heard a telephone ring somewhere in the house. The doctor had told her he didn't have a telephone right now. But what was going on? They drove back so slowly as they had come. Crawling up one street and down another, Rosemary sat in the back seat filled with dread, her mother's medicine clutched in her hand. Why was everything taking so long? She was sure the taxi driver was going in the wrong direction. "Are you going to the right hotel?" she asked. He didn't answer. She asked again, but still he didn't reply. When he stopped for a traffic light, she threw open the door and ran from the cab. She stopped a woman on the street. The woman did not speak English, but she knew someone who did. Rosemary was right. They had been driving in the wrong direction. When she finally got back to the hotel, it was early in the evening. She went up to the desk clerk who had given them their room. "I'm Rosemary Gibbs," she said. "My mother and I are in room 505. May I please have the key?" The clerk looked at her closely. "You must be mistaken," he said. "There's another guest in that room. Are you sure you're in the right hotel?" He turned to help someone else. She waited until he was finished. "You gave us that room yourself when we arrived this morning," she said. "How could you forget?" He stared at her as if she had lost her mind. "You must be mistaken," he said. "I have never seen you before. Are you sure you're at the right hotel?" She asked to see the registration card that had filled out when they arrived. "It's June and Rosemary Gibbs," she said. The clerk looked in the file. "We have no card for you," he said. You must be in the wrong hotel. The hotel doctor will know me, Rosemary replied. He examined my mother when we arrived. He sent me for medicine she needs. I want to see him. The doctor came downstairs. Here's the medicine for my mother, Rosemary said, holding it out to him. Your wife gave it to me. I've never seen you before, he said. You must be in the wrong hotel. She asked for the hotel manager who had put her in the taxi. Surely he would remember her. You must be in the wrong hotel, he said. Let me give you a room where you can rest. Then maybe you'll remember where you and your mother are staying. I want to see our room, Rosemary said, raising her... hold on. Raising her voice. It's room 505. But it was nothing like the room she remembered. It had a double bed, not twin beds. The furniture was black, not white. The carpet was green, not blue. I don't like colored carpet or even carpet. There was someone else's clothing in the closet. The room she knew had vanished. And so had her mother. This is not the room, she said. Where's my mother? What have you done with her? You're in the wrong hotel, the manager said patiently, as if he were speaking to a young child. Rosemary asked to see the police. My mother, our things, the room, they have all disappeared, she told him. Are you in the right hotel? Or are you sure you're in the right hotel? They asked. She went to her embassy for help. Are you sure it is the right hotel? They asked. Rosemary thought that she was losing her mind. Why don't you rest for a while? They said. Then maybe you'll remember. But Rosemary's problem was not her memory. It was what she did not know. As let's see page 102. So we will see page 102. Okay, so it says here. Okay, so maybe you'll remember how the story ends. What happened to Rosemary's mother? When the hotel doctor saw Mrs. Gibbs, he knew at once that she was about to die. She had a form of the plague, a dread disease that killed quickly and caused frightening epidemics. If the word got out that a woman had died of the plague in the heart of Paris, there would be panic. People in the hotel and elsewhere would rush to escape. The doctor knew what the hotel's owner expected. He was to keep the case a secret. Otherwise, they would lose lots of money. To get Rosemary out of the way, the doctor sent her to the other side of Paris for some worthless medicine. As he expected, Mrs. Gibbs died after she left. Her body was smuggled out of the hotel to a cemetery where it was buried. A team of workmen quickly repainted the room and replaced everything in it. The desk clerks were ordered to tell Rosemary that she was in the wrong hotel. When she insisted on seeing her room, it had become a different place, and of course, her mother had vanished. All those involved were warned that they would lose their jobs if they gave away the secret. To avoid panic in the city, the police and the newspapers agreed to say nothing of the death. No police reports were filed, no news stories appeared. It was as if Rosemary's mother and her room had never existed. So, it's kind of messed up, but here's another one. In another version of the story, Rosemary and her mother had separate rooms. Mrs. Gibbs died during the night while Rosemary was asleep. Her body was removed, then her room was repainted and refurnished. When Rosemary could not find her mother the next morning, she was told that her mother was not with her when she checked in. After many months of searching, a friend, a relative, or the young woman herself finds someone who works in the hotel and for a bribe reveals what happened. This legend was the basis of a movie So Long at the Fair that appeared in 1950. The story has also inspired two novels, one published as early as 1913, but the story was old even then. The writer Alexander Woollcott discovered that it had been reported as a true story in England in 1911 in the London Daily Mail and in American in 1889 in the Detroit Free Press. It became known throughout America and Europe. So, that was based on an actual event. How does that make you feel? I mean, if you had that type of experience ever happen to you, where you thought that you could trust people and needed help, and they just loop you around and mess with your mind. Life can be funny. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys for tonight. I hope you enjoyed those stories and that bit of information out of the third story, because that was actually pretty messed up. So, I will see you guys in a later video. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you did, make sure you leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And, if you feel like it, share these videos. But subscribing really would help me. But I'm going to go because it's getting very late. And I do have to go to work in the morning. So, with that in mind, I hope all of you have a pleasant evening. And try not to have too many nightmares.